Okay.
Dakawaka. That's a fake name. Okay, Dakawaka. You'll notice it's got a rubber band which can walk. You can walk this boomerang, you can walk the rubber band like this and like that. Depending on the wind, it's on the dingle arm, and you can walk the rubber band depending on the wind. More wind, you can walk it up. Less wind, take it back to the center of gravity. The center of gravity, by the way, is right here. You see how it's leaning on my fingers? So it turns out that this is about 3 inches away from the center of gravity, which is 3 times 3 is 9. VR squared. Velocity is equal to the radius squared, which is the radius is 3 inches. That's 9. So it turns out that this rubber band is 9 times more effective over here than it is here. So because this is at the center of gravity, it's almost at 0. Right when it gets to here, it's more effective. It's twice as effective, and it's 3 times more effective against the wind. This is called drag. Lift is basically the nice round edges of the leading edge, and the roundness on top and the flatness on the bottom gives you lift. Drag is this little thing here, which you can do a number of ways, and you could also get you could put a little lead weight right here or there, but especially here on the throwing arm, dingle arm, and you can put a little lead weight right there to get extra distance, which is very interesting. This boomerang is already pretty much set at 30 meters, but you might get it 40 meters with a little more weight. So now you'll notice I've got a finger grip like this. You could go like this, but some people do, but I kind of like a little finger grip like this. You could, of course, throw it from either wing as long as the flat side is out, as we know. But you'll notice a little pinch grip. It's called a pinch grip. So that's like that. It could be like that. Depends on how you feel. That's why you throw a boomerang 100 times, so you get to get a feeling for how you like it. See? Now, it might be a little slippery, and so the one thing we can do is take a little bit of sandpaper and rough it up a little bit. Sometimes you have to dry your fingers. If you get any sweat on your fingers, the boomerang might slip away, so you have to know that and keep drying your fingers and drying the boomerang. If it lands on grass, you have to keep drying it. If the boomerang slips from your hand and you have a bad throw, then the answer is don't let it be your fingers be wet or the boomerang be wet where you've got your grip. So you have to know what your grip is. If your grip is bad because of sweat or something, then take care of that. People have a little chamois rag, a towel right on their coming out of their clothing, so they can wipe this thing. This is important stuff. This thing here, I'm going to put back up towards the center of gravity, get rid of it. But if the wind comes up, I might want to move it back down again. You'll notice that you get to do this before every throw. Oh, more wind, less wind. Okay, just keep moving the thing. So now, if you throw 100 times, you'll know this. You don't have to ask me. Where's the best place to put it? Well, if you throw it here and you don't like what it's doing because it's like the boomerang is being pushed around by the wind, and then I put it over here and the boomerang isn't being pushed by the wind anymore, then you realize, oh, this thing really likes wind. This thing is better without wind. Okay, or maybe take the thing off if you feel like it. If there's no wind. Okay, now we're here. Now watch this. I was going to give you a throw. A throw is basically, there's 2 throws. One is the trick catch MTA throw, which is vertical, like this. This is what we mean by vertical. It's not like that. That's 30 degrees. 30 is up quite a lot. 45 is over here. That's almost too much. So if we want you to lean a boomerang over, we kind of like 30 degrees. 45, too much. So I just go to 30 if you're going to. So now in the meanwhile, there's 2 throws. One is a vertical straight out throw, which is for fast catch and for relay probably. Straight out means you're throwing it you're throwing it from your head. You aim for the head so it stays at head level. You're basically aiming for the head. Now, if you're doing archery, guess what? You pretty much have your target and you're doing a complete horizon shot. If you're an archer, in the Middle Ages, and you want to go a couple hundred yards extra, you might give it some elevation. But pretty much everything is straight and vertical. This is a handshake, by the way, which is vertical. This is a high five, let's say. But you're basically throwing a boomerang like a handshake, meaning you don't twist your hand like this. If you twist your hand like this boomerang's going to do crazy things. If somebody says vertical, they mean put your hand like this when you throw it. So you don't move your thumb this way. You basically throw, boom, handshake, boom, handshake. So that's the first thing. It wants to be vertical. Even if you're throwing, that's the first throw, which is for trick catch, fast catch, and MTA, vertical. The other throw is a low 45 hook throw, 30 degrees, not 45, 30 degrees right here, and you're basically throwing 5 degrees, not too much, below the horizon. Remember how the bow and arrow was right at the horizon, which is your trick catch and your fast catch? Now suddenly you're dropping the boomerang just about 5 degrees, not too much, but it depends. You'll know when you throw 100 throws for a particular wind, just exactly how you want to aim this thing. These are little calculations. A little more dip, a little lower. What wants to happen? So this is called a hook throw. The hook. This is kind of like a hook, right? This boomerang. This particular boomerang almost has both qualities. It can be thrown vertically and it can be thrown 45. So there's a low 45 hook throw like this. Low means that you're throwing just below the horizon, and you know what the boomerang's going to do? It's going to go low, and then it goes high, right at the top, the furthest spot that's about to turn around. Low, high, and then it comes back, and you catch it. Low, high, it's actually good to bring a boomerang back in less wind, because you need the low, high so it can slide home, because it's sliding down the ramp. There's actually a high-low throw, where you throw a little more vertical and a little higher, and the boomerang goes high-low. Now you notice it's just starting to go down when the big wind is pushing it back up. So now this is why you do that. If it's a big wind throw, you throw high-low. Chet Snuffer does this. High-low. Then you're throwing a little more vertical and a little higher than the horizon, and the boomerang is just dipping down at the farther spot, right when the wind is pushing it way away from you, but it counter effects. So you'll know that when you throw 100 throws, because you'll basically say, I got too much wind for where I can't just throw. Guess what? Throw and stand here and catch the thing. I got to run way back there. What would I do if I wanted to? Now your coach is going to tell you this, because we all know these things, because we've thrown enough to know. We're going to tell you, Bobby, okay, how about throwing a little more vertical, stand it up, throw a little higher, and see if you don't have to move when you throw this thing. So that's going to be really fun, because this particular boomerang for relay, what you want to do is to throw 30 meters out, back, catch the thing, and run back home to as I already told you, to the relay spot. So what you're doing here, a throw, you probably know what the throws are. There's a couple kinds of throws. Boomerang elbow is this really sore elbow people get with bandages and things and dry ice and all kinds of things, because basically we all throw like faton, faton, faton with our elbow like this, faton, like that, see, because we're macho guys. But it turns out many people, including myself, can throw from our legs. Watch this, I'm walking in and I go fatung, and I just walked in. All those walking was building energy for the throw. And then I'm walking in like this, here I go, I'm walking in, getting ready, the boomerang starts to go back here behind my ear, and I drop my body down into the ground. This is called datien. I actually go into the ground in a horse position. You'll notice that all Kung Fu has this little, and the legs are low like this, and then you start delivering your punches like this. You see, it's very efficient, and it's actually quite amazing, because God, watch this. Here I go, and I'm going fatong, and I'm suddenly throwing exactly like I'm in a martial arts Japanese science fiction film, and I'm in the horse position, and I'm delivering a punch like this. So now guess what? This is really easy, because I just drop my body, and my vector goes out like this. So if I do like this all the time, I'm going to kill my arm. But if I use my body to drop down, that's part of the energy that goes into the throw. That's the important part. So now your job, this is why you do 100 throws. Your job is to figure out, maybe I like to throw just like this, patang, patang. Maybe I don't mind taking one step in and going fatong, fatong. See, like this. Maybe I want 4 steps. This is what I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, foam like this. Then I throw. So you get to make choices. Now, one reason for making the 4 steps, you'll get to practice this by yourself. What are my steps? You can even ask yourself, I'm going to throw 10 times with the same steps. Or I'm going to throw 10 times with just not even moving, that kind of thing. And then you get to learn how that feels for yourself. You're basically introducing yourself to the boomerang, and you're introducing yourself to the wind, and you're introducing yourself to yourself. And because there's the boomerang, the wind, and yourself. And these are all interesting things. And you have to learn about all these things. What do I really need to do? Like this. Now, one thing that's really interesting is what is your left hand doing? See, if you throw like this, that's pretty good. Your left hand isn't doing anything. It's like, but what if my left hand, watch this, is pulling the bow like this while I throw? See, it's pulling the bow like this. It's on the strings. And my left hand is going like this. You should try that because that's martial arts. And what happens is the left hand, by pulling the bow like this, is creating a tension, and it's creating this gorgeous string. It's an invisible string between you and your throw, and it's giving you a lot more control. This is very interesting. I think that the major thing you're looking for, cleats are very nice. Are you actually throwing the boomerang and slipping on the grass as you throw? If you do, I guarantee the throw is going to go off. It's not going to be what you thought it was. And the boomerang is going to go somewhere else. So if you have cleats, then you know where your foot is and you can throw because you're just locked in. That kind of thing. So you've got basically a lot of things to think about. No big deal because what you're doing here is you're spending time really with yourself. You'll be working with a coach and they'll give you some obvious tips to change some things. Like one example is you may want to drop your shoulder as an example, which is purposeful in order to get a little more of a vertical throw. Because if you throw like this, you might be throwing sidearm, and when you drop your shoulder, you'll notice everything changes. That can be really important for time in the air, as an example. And then guess what? You get to go online on YouTube and look at Manu shoots. Manu is a Swiss guy with world records like crazy, top thrower in the world, and there's lots of videos of Manu throwing boomerangs. It's almost crazy to look at him because he has so much of a pretzel, so much body torque, etc. You can look at a lot of people throwing and learn things. The best person to learn from is the person in front of you. Because that person in front of you is showing you either the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, the right direction, the right angle with the boomerang. They may have chosen a different boomerang from you, and you go, okay, I need that boomerang instead. Basically they show you lots of things. And don't forget, one of the beauties, as I've already mentioned, about Welcome to the Boomerang Club is you're going to be throwing with top throwers, which makes you look bad, but not 5 years from now. 5 years from now, you get to be the top thrower. And now you're only going to get to be the top thrower 5 years from now if you pay attention to who you're throwing with. And you learn from them, and you learn from your mistakes, and you realize, I got 5 years to look good here. So just completely relax about how you're going to do. Really, the first thing I'd like you to do is to welcome and embrace and give a big hug to the wind, because she's your best friend and she kind of hates you. She's playing tricks on you. She's like, you put the grass, she says, I'm over here, then you throw the boomerang and she goes, no, I'm actually really over here, and so you have to realize that the wind is actually having fun. You should have fun too, and if you can trick the wind, or you can throw against the wind in some ways, or beat the wind, it's a beautiful thing. But you also have to shake the wind's hand all the time, because we have to respect her, because she is nature. You may not know, and this is quite astonishing, but it's probably too much information, but she's not just the wind. She's the moisture on the field. If it turns out that the field is wet, the grass is wet, it's cool grass, it's cold grass. Okay, that's a cold area. That's called a sump or a lurk. It turns out your boomerang is throwing on the nice hot air, and then it hits the cold air from the wet grass. Something funny is going to happen. Boomerang will crash, as an example. Oh, why did my boomerang crash? I made a mistake. No, you didn't see that the grass was wet, as an example. So guess what? If we want to have really good-looking wind, we go to the center of the field, away from the wet grass. Now, if you throw next to the trees, Then you have a lurk, which is a tumble, which means that the wind is coming over the trees and voodoo, creating circles. Maybe even a dragon's tail. The dragon's tail is when the wind is circling in a crazy, snappy way, kind of like this. And what the most fun about boomerangs is when you throw a boomerang, it goes through all these different wind situations. And you get to watch your boomerang act funny. And you get to realize, oh my God, maybe the wind isn't just this steady thing that the grass shows me. Because over by the trees, the wind is tumbling. Closer to the wet grass, the wind is dropping. And then when it hits a thermal, the wind is rising. So there's a lot of really cool things the wind is doing. And I think in your case, we have to realize that that's part of the fun, and it's part of the magic of you being on a field that is alive. The person who sees these things more than the others just tends to do better in contests. So we have the damn Greg Snoffer, Chet Snoffer brothers, and you know what they're doing? They're watching the trees half a mile away, and the trees are going boom, 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 and then they nod, and they realize in about 20 seconds, this thing that's hitting the trees is going to show up and hit us. So they know things. So watching the trees, watching the flags, throwing the grass. One of the secrets to boomerang throwing is throwing the grass every time in case the wind changes every time. If the wind changes and you're the only one who realized the wind changed 30 degrees, quite a lot, and you're the only one, and everybody else is throwing in the wrong direction and you're throwing in the right direction, you're looking pretty good. And 50 other people are looking pretty bad because you threw up the grass and they didn't. See, you got to realize this is really very funny stuff. So being a world champion is obviously being focused, deliberate, paying attention, getting the jokes, kind of relaxed, realizing that if you're making mistakes, maybe the other people are making mistakes too, and maybe you're making a couple less mistakes than they are, that kind of thing. There are certain times where the wind is really crazy and we have to bail out, we got our buckets and we're bailing out the ship because the ship is sinking, and we're bailing out. And if we can bail out better than the other guys, we win the contest. I have actually won several World Cups because the wind was so miserable that we were in a storm. And we simply weathered the storm better than the other people, which wasn't perfection at all because we're not throwing indoors. If we're throwing indoors, we have another thing. So the point is, I would not recommend that you begin by going out in nasty wind. But when you do, just realize you're going to get spanked. And the answer is, thank you, I love you. Because the wind is really your friend. You're having fun together, and she's certainly having fun, even if you're not. So this is really exciting. And when you go to a World Cup and the wind is acting really miserable, and you're looking pretty good compared to other people, you see, that's good to know. So the real point is, one thing about a winner is a winner doesn't beat the wind. They beat the other guy who had a bad attitude towards the wind. They go, oh, the wind is my enemy, oh, the wind really sucks, or the wind betrayed me, or the wind is not my friend, and that person just loses. See? And then you win because you actually think, oh, this wind is pretty much fun. Oh, that's good. Look, she's tricking me right now. Okay, here we go. So if you've got the right attitude, you might actually beat these other guys. And I think that that's a better idea. Don't worry about the wind. Just realize she's giving you information. And sometimes she's giving you a given, which means she's telling you what she's doing and you know what she's doing. And sometimes she's giving you an X factor, which means you think you throw up the grass and it's working, but the boomerang isn't actually working according to the grass. So let me watch the other people in front of me instead, because they've got longer range boomerangs because the grass is right in front of me, but their boomerang's traveling 30 meters. So now I get to see what the boomerang is doing 30 meters away, which is not right in front of me. It might be a different wind 30 meters away. So basically what we're saying is that the boomerang thing is pretty simple if you just keep with one boomerang. And guess what? You're you, so that's pretty simple too. But in order for you to be simple, you have to make decisions. How is my throw going to look? And if it works, can I throw the same way 5 times in a row? That's going to be one of the first things you have to do for yourself, is when you have success, you have to stop and realize, okay, I threw this direction with this angle of my throw with this much power, and I'm going to do the same thing again. And that's really fun.